My parents convinced me I was mentally disabled for 17 years. When I found out why, they tried to have me declared incompetent. The needle went into my arm wrong that morning. Mom had been giving me my weekly vitamin injection since I was 4 years old, but this time her hand shook and the metal scraped against bone. I cried out in pain, jerking my arm away instinctively, and saw something flash across her face that I'd never seen before. Fear. Sorry, sweetheart, she said quickly, grabbing my wrist tighter than necessary. You know how important these vitamins are for your condition. Hold still for mommy. But as the burning liquid entered my bloodstream, I noticed something different. Usually, the injection made me drowsy and compliant within minutes, ready for my afternoon nap and evening cartoons. This time, my mind felt electric, sharp, like someone had just turned on a light in a room I'd been living in darkness for years. I was 21 years old, but according to my parents, my brain worked like a child's. Severe cognitive developmental disorder, they called it. I'd never questioned the diagnosis, because why would parents lie about something so devastating? They homeschooled me with picture books, spoke to me in simple sentences, and made every decision about my life because I was supposedly too impaired to understand complex concepts. But sitting in that kitchen chair with the needle mark throbbing in my arm, I found myself really looking at my mother for the first time. Her perfectly styled hair, expensive jewelry, designer clothes. We lived in $1 million house, drove luxury cars, took elaborate vacations. For a family supposedly devoted to caring for their disabled son, we seemed remarkably wealthy. Mom, I heard myself say, the words coming out clearer than they had in years. Where does Dad work? She froze with the empty syringe still in her hand. You know Daddy works at the office, honey. Don't worry about grown-up things. But I was worrying. For the first time in my life, questions were forming in my mind faster than I could process them. Why had I never seen Dad's office? Why did we never have visitors? Why was I the only homeschooled kid I'd ever met who never went anywhere or did anything? That afternoon, while Mom was at her book club and Dad was supposedly at work, I did something I'd never done before. I explored our house, really explored it, beyond my bedroom and the living areas where I was allowed to spend my carefully supervised time. The first door I tried was Dad's study, a room I'd been told was off limits because it contained important papers that would confuse my simple mind. But when I turned the handle, my heart nearly stopped. The walls were covered with medical diplomas and certifications, not for psychiatry or developmental disorders like I'd expected, but for nephrology, kidney medicine. Dr. Robert Hayes, MD, nephrology specialist. My father wasn't just any doctor, he was a kidney doctor. And suddenly, fragments of overheard conversations started making terrible sense. Late-night phone calls about compatible donors and tissue matching, whispered discussions about my brother Nathan's deteriorating condition and running out of time. I opened the filing cabinet with shaking hands and found folders labeled with both our names. Nathan's contained medical records documenting progressive kidney failure, genetic test results, and treatment plans that all led to the same conclusion. He needed a transplant within 6 months or he would die. My folder was different. Instead of medical records, it contained psychological evaluations, competency assessments, and legal documents I didn't understand. But the words I could make out made my blood turn to ice. Cognitively impaired, unable to provide informed consent, guardian authorization for medical procedures. At the very bottom of the stack was a contract with something called Advanced Organ Procurement Services. The letterhead showed today's date, and the document outlined a procedure scheduled for next week. Harvesting a viable kidney from cognitively disabled donor, age 21, with parental consent as legal guardians. Full story on my channel and linked below.